Reentry Coordinator for the Cincinnati and Dayton regions with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. Like I mentioned, this is restarting education and workforce development services. Ms. Nathan, I think we're okay to start recording if you have not already, ma'am.
We are good to go. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And thanks everybody for being with us today. This panel is comprised of Cheryl Taylor, who is a reentry education specialist with Sinclair Community College, and Jamie G., the director of the Montgomery County Office of Reentry. And I told them yesterday, and I think they think I may have been just flattering them, but I was deadly serious. When I saw that this was the panel for this section, I was immediately grateful because I knew these two women would do all of the heavy lifting. If I ever have a question regarding reentry education or workforce development, these are the two people I'm calling first. They bring with them a lot of experience, and I think they're going to be really interesting to hear from today. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And I'd like to start out just by asking Ms. Taylor and Ms. G, and I'll let you two fight out who wants to go first. But if you guys could just kind of walk us through your path to this point in reentry and education, what you've been up to that brought you here and how you got there. And before they get started, if I could remind all of our participants just to keep your mics muted. We'll have a time for questions. You can put questions in the chat function if you'd like, though we are experiencing an encryption issue with the chat function. So I will make sure to open it up to the floor if your messages aren't coming through. And I think you're still muted, Cheryl. I see you talking a little bit.
Yeah, I was wondering if she could go ahead and start. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Cheryl Taylor, and I don't know about a reentry specialist. That makes me a little nervous, but we'll see here. So I have experience in law enforcement. I started as a deputy sheriff, and about 11 years in that, and 12, 13 years in higher ed, and kind of in law enforcement, I found that that was very reactive in nature, and it's pretty tough to see people on the worst days of their life, you know, and knew that I needed to be about proactive, kind of helping people kind of walk out the door and not come back. And education does that. And, you know, we've heard it's a great equalizer. And now the combination of the two, it's just been an amazing journey. I started teaching when I went back to school after leaving law enforcement, and I always said I would never teach. I come from a family of educators and said I'd never teach, but I loved it. And then an opportunity came to combine the two, and it's just kind of the desires of my heart. And I've been doing that since about 2012. Sinclair has been offering correctional programming since the mid-'80s, and we've expanded recently. We're in quite a few prisons in the state of Ohio. I see Angela Dardis. We are at two of her sites, and she's been very instrumental in helping us expand and offer programming within Allen Oakwood. Thank you, Angela, for that. So that's kind of who I am. That's advanced job training. We used to have to just call it advanced job training. Correctional education or college and prison was not something you could actually talk about in the past, right? It wasn't necessarily in vogue. Now it is. You know, this is something across the country that people are really embracing and really recognizing the value. And then we recognize that we really need to prepare people for reentry. Reentry starts the day you enter prison. And we have a returning citizen initiative that we've served about 1,000 students, and we hope to serve a lot more, but that's been since 2017. And we partner with Montgomery County Office of Reentry. And I think we're going to be talking a lot about that. Jamie and I have a long history, and we've kind of had growing pains together. So hopefully we'll be able to share a little bit of that with you.
So you're so right, Cheryl, growing pains, but some beautiful, rewarding moments. To talk about myself, my name is, again, Jamie G., the Managing Officer of the Montgomery County Office of Reentry. I have a over 31 years, having worked, started my career in the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction at Warren Correctional Institution. I worked in various capacities while at the prison from from food service to secretary to case manager, recovery services to unit manager, but then transitioned to the Adult Parole Authority as a regional reentry specialist, as reentry coordinator for the Cincinnati region. And so what Jennifer, like I set those shoes there for you to step into. No, I'm just joking.
I'm happy to do so.
Thank you. And so it was a new position when I stepped foot in that position, and was grateful for those 16 years having transitioned from the prison to the Adult Parole Authority region. Then opportunity came open to head the Montgomery County Office of Reentry. And this is our 10th year anniversary in doing so. We started off as a grant-funded office and transitioned to a general county-funded office. We've been through many grant programs, many that are focused on workforce development, but for the most part, all of our programming has been holistic in nature to include employment programs. So to speak, our Montgomery County Reentry Project had a transitional jobs and employment program as a part of it. Then we transitioned from that into being a partner with the East End Community Center. It was called Pathways, and it was a green construction or deconstruction type of program. Then we transitioned from that into the ACTS program, which was called the Advanced Cognitive Treatment Services Program, that had an employment component. We developed our workforce development, offender workforce development pilot, and then from the workforce development pilot into the Reentry Career Alliance Academy, which has been our signature program that serves individuals returning to the community. Our Reentry Career Alliance Academy has, in the last 5 years, served over 560 plus graduates that have been successful. And of those 560 graduates, less than 5% of those individuals have ended up with post-program commitments after completion and successful completion of the program. So we consider that success, but we can't do it without the individuals who invest in their own success, in their own destiny. And we help individuals that are willing to help themselves. So the Reentry Career Alliance Academy is a 29 workshops, 4-week model. It's a collaborative, holistic model that engages over 2 to 3 dozen partners. Sinclair, Cheryl being one of them. And then we also move individuals through that experience 3 days a week, Tuesday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it culminates into a ceremonial process of graduation where the graduates take ownership of their graduation, and each one plays a role in how that plays itself out. They receive a proclamation signed by our three Montgomery County commissioners, and the staff are there on site and partners on site, family and friends become a part of that. In Montgomery County, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this, Judge Walter H. Rice and Commissioner Debbie Lieberman, they are co-chairs of our Reentry Council, but it wasn't for their vision with our community-wide task force back in, prior to 2008, we would probably not see, the support. It is really important to have that support from the top down. And as an Office of Reentry, we, our oversight is Mr. Joe Spittler, Criminal Justice Director, and our council subcommittees and our staff. Have a 7-person team. Our program coordinators, Amy Piner, Mr. Clint Howard. We have a reentry specialist, Mr. Sterling Titus, who's on the call. Also, Monica Lofton, who is a case manager we share with the city of Dayton, as well as Lisa Singh, who's our volunteer coordinator. We have a college to work intern, Ms. Raven Jackson. Our administrative assistant is our secretary is Mr. Keith Harrison. And we work in partnership together with our partners to serve clients. So hopefully that gives you, I think I've gone beyond the workforce and how it led to the workforce. yours. So I probably answered about 10 more other questions, but.
I hope not, because I promised that you guys were doing the heavy lifting. So kind of keeping with our theme of education and workforce development during COVID, as Sinclair and the Montgomery County Office of Reentry start to restart, what lessons are you learning as you've adapted through trying to provide services at a time like this?
Well, I can tell you that it looks a lot different. I think we've all found that. You know, we long for days of the past and realize that we're probably never going to go back there. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, but we just realize that, you know, we've got to do things differently. And, you know, we are in the prisons right now and somewhat in the prisons, and it changes daily. I know that those are in DRC or in a correctional setting, they are experiencing some of the same things. And to understand that those that are currently in the system or have recently left the system, that some of the challenges that they're facing, that we need to keep that in mind, you know, that it's pretty stressful for them. It's stressful for us on the outside, but it's pretty stressful for them on the inside. And to make sure that we're providing those, you know, those helps. I mean, just coming alongside, you know, I think about, you know, we talk about education, especially with what we're doing, advanced job training. You know, day one starts preparing for release. And our focus is primarily on those within 5 years of release. So, and within DRC, about half, I know last year, I think the statistics were about 22,000 were released of a population of 49,000. Is that about right, Jen? I think that's about right. Yeah. And
that sounds accurate.
And about half of those that we serve, the same thing, they are going to be released. So we're thinking about that. And in the age of COVID-19, you know, even though we are not always having direct contact, in fact, of our prisons, I think there are 2 that we are actually in, and we're actually serving in cohorts, and it's a very short period of time. So what does that look like? What does that look like to prepare them for reentry? So part of this Returning Citizen initiative that we do is, you know, we start doing a very comprehensive reentry plan in conjunction with DRC, preparing for, you know, is walking out the door, whether that means a job, continue their education, housing, all of those things. And we've just got to continue doing that. We do it through the kite system. We do it through old-fashioned mail, you know, and however we can do it. It's just, we've got to adapt. And I think the biggest thing is flexibility, and whatever needs to be done, we do it. And we follow up. We make sure they have our contact information. And the way that we've established our Returning Citizen initiative, we don't really care where they're getting released in the state. You know, the goal is not for them to come to Sinclair. The goal is for them to walk out the door and be successful and never come back. So if they return to Cuyahoga County and they find themselves without a place to stay, call us. There's resources. There's resources all over the state of Ohio. I think we're one of the richest states in resources in the country. And so that's our goal. They end up a lot of times coming because we have online. Right now, everything's online, right? Almost virtually. And with Sinclair, and I know lots of others at higher ed institutions across the country, mostly we're online. So I think only about 15% is face-to-face anyway. So it's right in line with that. So what we do then is we're preparing them for reentry, preparing them to join the workforce. You know, we're talking about all of those things. We're continuing all the efforts we've already been doing inside. We follow up and we follow up. And whether that be by calls, whether that be by Zoom meetings, whether that be by, you know, preparing them or having tutorial services, whatever that means for that individual. And I think it's very individualized. Looking at the person, what do you need? And I think that's really important. And so I guess when you talk about what are we learning, just be flexible, you know? And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong, and we just learn from those mistakes and we go forward. I think that's the biggest thing, and we're in this together, and I think that we need to reach out to each other and learn from what other people are doing, what they're getting right, what they're getting wrong, and collaborate. I think this is an age of collaboration even more than it has been in the past. And thankful for partners such as the Office of Reentry, you know, and also, you know, Reentry, DRC's Reentry. We're going to be doing some cool things moving forward, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. Well, maybe let's talk about it right now. We are going to be doing a Zoom call, and I think it's the end of this month, right? where those that are, and Jamie, you can talk about this more as well, but those that are going to be released by February, the end of February, right? They are going to be calling, and I'll let you continue on that, but that's a cool thing, you know, so they can ask those questions, and we're providing a platform to do that, and looking at even those people that may not have access to a computer. Well, what does that mean? Well, they have a phone. So there's going to be lots of different things. So I think that's what we're learning. I'll let Jamie go ahead and talk about that, because that's kind of your wheelhouse as well.
Okay, there we go. Yes, the community family forum we're scheduled for October the 27th. I believe, you know, Sinclair is they're gonna do the, like as Jennifer said, the heavy lifting with the making sure that it is available via webinar to everyone, and to ask those, that the questions are really important, that individuals can connect and be able to know the best way for individuals to navigate that bridge from prison to community, and what the community and as family and loved ones we can do to support that effort. That, you know, as far as the Office of Reentry, as I mentioned, you know, when you've been doing something for quite a while, or over the last decade, it's really hard to shut things down. And on March the 18th, when we were told we had to close our offices and that we were going to be working remote, that was kind of shock and awe for us. Like, what do you mean we can't, you know, what do you mean? And we asked it several times. And I think it took us about a week to transition our hearts and our minds of what that meant and what that looked like from the comfort of our homes, that we still needed to engage. And so we actually continue to connect with our clients remotely, by phone, by email. We do have a reentry vehicle. If they had needs, we utilize that vehicle in order to reach out with them, and help them with any needs that they may have. But we realized just how important it was, as Cheryl mentioned, this is the culture of collaboration. We can't, as a small, and I call us but a small but mighty office, do everything, just this office. We continue that connection with our partners in the community. And I believe that we learned how to educate, equip, and empower our clients through the pandemic. And there are several ways that we, not only was it through case management, but also our Eichelberger reentry specialist, Mr. Sterling Titus, as he's connecting and stays in connection with Jennifer on a regular basis. You know, the video in reach that the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections hosts is done in partnership with offices such as the Montgomery County Office of Reentry and those across the state. And that was a very efficient way during that time to be able to stay connected and make sure that we can answer questions, try to alleviate and minimize those fears. Because during this time, I believe as an office, and I know as an individual, it was important for me to move from fear to faith, that we had to adapt to the situation. I learned through a strength finder that I just did the other day with ODRC, thank you very much, is that my top one strength is adaptability. Wow, who would have thought, you know, adaptability through the storm, having that calm, being able to move forward, knowing that needs to be a shift and a pivot, and that while everything is not how we typically expect it to be, that is then a time to transform obstacles into opportunities and become resilient and be able to overcome those. And so it was important for that message to be translated in every conversation that we had with the individuals that we served. We were able to tap into our reentry database system, connect individuals via phone and text. We were able to engage with the cohort 2 that was in the middle of their programming at the time, re-engage with them for those who were interested, get provide them with a virtual Reentry Career Alliance Academy experience, graduate them online. And cohorts 2, 6, and 7 have been virtual graduations. Cohorts 3, 4, and 5, we could not move forward with them, but in the meantime, we developed that support network called In the Meantime. In the meantime, to help individuals transition from where we had left off, picking that back up, moving forward, engaging, connecting those individuals still to employment resources, community resources, and trying not to miss the opportunity to stay connected. In the Office of Reentry, our motto is Action, Alliance, and Accountability. That's our AAA philosophy. And we felt the need to make sure that we were doing that. And so when we came back in the office on June the 1st, we were working, remotely. So it didn't feel any differently, just stepping back foot in the office and then determining were we going to see individuals in person. And we made the determination that we would modify our class sizes and develop a hybrid instruction model. So we had 3 groups, A, B, and C. We met with them at Group A in person on Tuesday, Group B in person on Wednesday, and Group C on Thursday. And the other groups met online the days that they weren't in person to connect with case management and staff. We were able to graduate that cohort effectively. But with anything, things change, right? You have to pivot and shift and adapt. And so due to COVID precautionary measures, just as we were in the last cohort, we had to shut down again, for about, a week or 2. And so now we're back. Henceforth, I'm back in my office, but we still have to maintain and keep safety above any and all things. And we are moving forward solely virtually through the end of the year. But we are still seeing individuals come through our office, and they are still able to come in and visit us and connect, and so that we can connect with them. So that's kind of how we're navigating this experience. And we're trying to do our very best to make sure that we keep the clients first.
So I think both of you did a nice job of covering what was part of my next question already, which is, what have you tried that has worked? But have you tried anything that did not during this, where you ran into an unexpected result?
I'll let Jamie start this one. Go ahead. You're muted. You're muted, Jamie.
Technology. We realized that a 6-day, 2-3 workshops a day was too long for online instruction. We've come to modify that and to provide those proper breaks in between. We've had to also modify the way that we share and educate individuals how to navigate through a virtual platform through Zoom. Sometimes you can, have a classroom, just as I'm looking at the screen now, and I can't see anyone's faces, so you don't really know they're there, right? So there are ways that we really have to stay and engage and connect to, make sure we're using that chat. I see one thing in the chat right down here. Okay, just making sure I'm not missing anything. But using those tools, understanding that actually we're learning just as well as anyone else is learning. Things that haven't worked, we did when I mentioned the In the Meantime support group. You know how robust it can be at the beginning when you're bridging the gap and you're providing something in place. Well, that attendance began to decline as individuals felt the urgency to either find a job and get out, or connect through our office to connect to employment, or they had to determine what they needed to do, for what was important for that day. So then what we did is we shifted the in the meantime support group within our curriculum to make sure that we're serving individuals, and we were making sure we were serving a captive audience. I guess Cheryl, I'm going to let you go, and then if I can think of something, I'll come back.
I think you've captured it. I think technology, we tried a couple of things that didn't work and we just regrouped, you know. I think that's the biggest thing. I think one of the things we found is that some of our students getting out, they didn't have access to technology. So we needed to make sure that we provided that. And one of the things that our college did is we made sure we had access, that we could hand some of those things out to continue their education. Obviously, employment was a big thing, and connecting them with, you know, opportunities for employment, that was a big thing, but technology was huge. That was really big. So, you know, just assuming that everyone's going to have connection or the ability to that, you know, I think we knew it, that we needed to provide that, but we really knew it when, you know, we found that there was that deficit. So, but we quickly remedied it. And I think our college is already acknowledging that. So, and I think that's part of the next question. Sorry, Jen.
It's like these ladies are psychic. So that does kind of bring me to our next question was, is there anything you figured out that maybe you used to be committed to it, but you've learned you can leave it behind and still move forward? Anything you can do without, and this taught you that lesson?
I think plans. I think you know, I like to plan for the future. Jamie and I were talking I like to have everything in advance planned out, like what I'm going to do in the future. And, you know, even this presentation, we thought it was going to be a presentation initially. And so I would have liked to have this done 2 or 3 weeks in advance. And I think I have to let that go in the age of COVID. You know, things continue to change, and that's the biggest thing. That's the hardest thing for me personally, and the hardest thing for, you know, our staff even, you know, they really depend on that. But, you know, I look at who we serve, and they have to deal with that every single day. And that's the thing I just have to keep remembering, you know, and if we can be flexible, we are displaying that, we are modeling that for those who we serve. And I think that's really important. So I guess that's it. I guess, Jen, that's the biggest thing is, you know, just letting go of control. I guess it's control, isn't it? Gosh, okay, I'm going to admit it. Jamie, you're shaking your head. Stop
it makes perfect sense. Cheryl is leaving behind control.
Having therapy today. Okay.
That is exactly it, control. And another thing I believe we left behind, which can be a good thing, is those in-person meetings. Okay, so we do a lot of things in person, so the shifting allows us to be a bit more efficient with time. I'm going to be totally honest, that has really allowed me to focus even as a manager, looking at what activities and duties and responsibilities that our team has to do and how we can do that most effectively. Use of these collaborative tools are starting to surface as just a breath of fresh air for us. So yeah, leave behind in-face meetings for now. Don't know what, we'll go back to that. And if I think of something else, Jennifer, I'll add it later. Thanks.
Well, I think that travel is a big thing. You know, that time spent moving between locations. I know I spent a lot of my work week getting from one meeting to another, and that was, you know, dead time in a lot of ways. And things like Zoom and Teams and all these other platforms that we've become really adept at using can save us a lot of that very precious resource. We can spend it on something different. So do you, in that same vein, you guys make the nicest transitions. Do you see new opportunities that are emerging that we should be figuring out how to leverage right now?
I think, at least for us, as we're looking at, you know, what we offer inside and the opportunities education-wise, how do we need to retool in order to prepare returning citizens at this point? It's changing. You know, you look at what all of the people that were laid off. Was it 28,000 in the last 24 hours? Right? I mean, it's just mind-boggling. But other areas are opening up. Example, like supply chain, right? Those are the industries that they just, like my husband works for, he's in logistics, and I have someone in my office that works, and so I mean, her husband works in logistics, and it's the busiest season ever. You know, just looking and talking about where do we need to refocus our, you know, the educational opportunities for the students prior to release, and making sure that we have contact with those employers upon release. The division that I am in, or advanced job training is in, is the office. It's called Workforce Development and Organization. So we work with work-based learning, apprenticeship, career tech. That's the division we're in. So we really look at opportunities upon release. But we do it for people, obviously the students, you know, students that are traditional students as well. So I think that is a continual thing, and just providing that clear pathway, looking at it inside and looking at that pathway upon release, and looking at apprenticeships that start inside upon release. And I think those are some conversations we've already started. We have started having internally with ODRC. I think that's huge. I think that's going to be the wave of the future. We've got to make sure that the individuals that are walking out the door, that they are highly skilled and trained, have confidence. Education opportunities now for individuals to get associates and bachelor's degrees. We've got to make sure we're really looking at that. Resumes look great, that they know how to interview, that they, you know, all of those things. You're shaking your head, Jen. I mean, those things are just really, really important. And these are opportunities. We knew that before, but it was different before. I think it's just looks completely different. I don't think any of us have any idea what 6 months is going to look like, right? Who knew? Anyway, so I think that's huge. I think that's really huge. And I think that for us internally, when we're talking to our students inside, communicating that. I think they don't always see exactly what goes on the outside, but we need to be able to communicate that and to prepare them, to better prepare them to walk out the door. I think that's huge. And then prepare them. So Jamie, I'll let you talk about that.
Sure. I think as an office, we have one thing I will say that I believe that we do really well is nurture the relationships in the community. And so as we nurture relationships in the community, we have had a Reentry Collaborative established since 2011. So this time has really allowed us to redefine our strategies, not only the strategies of the Reentry Career Alliance Academy, and not only of the Reentry Collaborative, but we have a Reentry Council that has 6 subcommittees that focuses on family and community engagement, housing, employment, legal issues, women in reentry, as well as public education. And each one of these groups are in the process of strategic planning, redefining, renewing, and recharging what we know to be, and defining what the barriers or the challenge or the needs are moving forward, and how we shift and are able to not only meet but exceed the expectations of the individuals that we're serving as we're helping them transition from either jail to community, prison to community. We work with the Office of Reentry just does not work with individuals that have been incarcerated. Anyone that has a barrier on their record, we want to help minimize those barriers. And as it's our mission to provide those programs and services that minimizes the barriers to reentry and promotes a reduction in recidivism. One of the things we realized is, our academy has been very beneficial, but beyond the academy, this has allowed us to really connect with the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce, to connect with the Honoroo Group in a partnership called the REACH program. And the REACH program is called Entrepreneurship Redefined. It's a 7-week program of graduates that we serve that have business interests, that want to develop businesses. As a matter of fact, there's a class this evening and the last class where they do their pitch is next week. And this coming together and identifying that this is a challenging workforce space right now. You know, if I don't, if I am not able to land a job the traditional way, you know, what can I do to add value, improve my quality of life, and add value to my family, and own something, own a business, own something that I can, you know, leave a legacy for my children and my family. And so we have individuals that are engaged in that right now. They're really excited about it. And I believe without the space, I mean, I know we were working on it, but this space is just perfect right now to be able to connect with them. We've moved from on-site operations to virtual operations in the last 2 weeks. But that is an opportunity I think that has been wonderful for us, is to just take the moment to redefine, recharge, and re-strategize.
Awesome, thank you. So where do your organizations need the community to step up, collaborate, and offer resources to fill the bigger gap? What can the community do?
Jamie, you want to start?
Well, I think the continuing to help us educate, equip, and empower the individuals that we're serving is, I mean, it's paramount. I think I mentioned earlier, one of the challenging things for me during this period was moving from fear to faith. And I think if we each look inwardly at how we go about doing that, it is that we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, stepping out spaces and connecting with, you know, our service population without having so many unrealistic expectations. So the community, staying engaged. Like I know our office, we have a dedicated volunteer coordinator and resource navigator. Her name is Lisa Singh. Those that want to connect with the Office of Reentry and become a volunteer, that is one way for the community to assist us in helping fulfill our mission. Another way the community can assist is allowing to open up whatever groups, organizations, associations, to make sure that individuals, restored citizens, become a part of their associations and organizations and groups and support groups, to hear their voice, to make sure that it's not predefined what is needed, that that voice is there and at the table and invited to the table. So in your spaces, wherever you are at, open your space, invite, and actually put the table settings down and make sure that the individuals are at your table. That's I think I probably couldn't say that more than anything.
I'm not sure I could say that any better or any differently, but I do agree with that. And I think even with employers, I think that's just really encouraging those that you know that are hiring, just be open, you know, to changing policies. And if you are an employer, be willing to take a chance, you know, come alongside and take a chance. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised and encourage others to do the same. I think about some of the people that I interact with inside. Some of the best people just made some of the worst choices, you know. And if we could somehow communicate that to the people that we interact with on you know, externally, I think they'll find the same thing. I really do. So I think that happens in every walk of life.
So does that answer change when asked about the faith community? Is there something that the faith community specifically can do to assist in creating greater opportunities for our restored citizens?
I think probably the same thing. I mean, you know, open up your doors, right? Have a place setting, just like Jamie said. I think that kind of echoes that same thing. Be willing to take a chance. And yeah, I don't know how much more, how, you know, I think that's exactly right. Jamie, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Because I believe that there are several ministries that could reach out and say, okay, I think about one locally that I'm connected with through the Bo Believer community involvement. And they provide a weekly, they call it group therapy. And it's kind of like an online virtual support network for individuals and families. And they open that up. It's about an hour every week. And they make it available Facebook, Zoom, or you can call it. And so let's say that there are ministries in the faith community have something that they would like to share. I mean, we've even gone as far as to try to connect with music ministries. And I mean, music actually feeds my soul. If anything, if you looked at my bio, you'll see that music is a part of that. I believe it transcends so much beyond what the challenges we're facing in the world today. But we've even I connected with a choir director. Actually, Dr. Roma has been in the prisons for a long period of time, for as long as I have. And we were attempting to try to bring individuals together from the faith-based community, from the choir, develop in the Restored Citizens, and bring about a new voice, a collective voice in the community. Now, I know singing, sometimes you have to be mindful, social distancing, but it still to me, it's therapeutic. Something, whatever you have that you can bring to the table, that's a strength of ministry. And even if it's not a ministry yet, that you want to create something that can add value, that can add, improve someone's quality of life, pour life into someone, just contact our office. If you're interested in how you can assist, contact our office. We'll be more than willing to be able to help you identify what that interest is through Lisa, and also provide that support in order for those individuals who want to be served.
That's great. Thank you both for sharing all that information in that kind of structured format. I'd love the opportunity for the participants in the roundtable to be able to ask you questions. So it looks like the chat function is doing a strange thing where anything you type says it's encrypted. But the way the screen is set up, for the participants, if you unmute yourself, I can see you, and then I can call on you and you can field your questions. I see Brad Wise was the first one to hit the button.
Yes, there are those that are in recovery from alcohol and substance use disorders. What are the career potential in the community? And I believe Sinclair Community College has some courses for this career path.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think honestly, that's one of the most popular paths to go on, to actually, yeah. So there's introduction to addictive illness, that is probably one of the most popular courses, especially inside. There is certainly social work. That is probably one of the most forgiving fields. We would definitely recommend that. We have someone actually inside that teaches. He's actually a supervisor for recovery services. It's called something different now. I can't remember, but ODRC, and he has a criminal record, right? And it's just something about been there, done that, I can share, we had a student that she had 3 numbers, and the 3rd time she was in, it was like, I've had enough. Everything was related to addiction, everything. In fact, the last time was felonious assault, and she's 5'2", so it was all addiction. And the last time her mom died, and she lost a child. She had to give her child, her grandmother ended up raising the child, but she didn't get to be there. And she said, I've had it, I've had enough. And she got out, and she was almost finished prior to getting out, but she finished it was actually addiction studies, associate in addiction studies. And she did her internship. The day after she graduated, they actually created a position for her. Now she's a certified addiction counselor. So, and there's just power in that. So yes, that's definitely open. And and then social work. I mean, definitely social work. I definitely encourage that. Yeah, so I don't know if that answered your question, Brad, but that's definitely a forgiving field. You don't make a ton of money though. I mean, that's the thing. You got to do it because you love it, you know? So.
Anyone else have a question they want to ask?
I think Angela Dart is, I saw her question, but she's no longer, oh, there she is. Angela, you had a question. And you know, Angela is an educator inside. I don't know if you want to share anything, Angela. You've been working with us for years. Put you on the spot right there. Okay.
Angela, on the off chance you're talking, I still see your mute button on. That might be it. Okay. Well, hey, we're still here if it comes together. Anyone else in the Zoom room? Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating with us today, and a special thank you to Jamie and Cheryl for giving of your time and expertise. What do you know? I was right. You guys did all of the heavy lifting, made it oh so easy. Oh, looks like Jamie Nathan would like to jump in. Oh no,
Just
sorry.
doing a shout out for a good job.
I thought it was a hand raise and not a clap. I misread the hands. Sorry about that. But again, thank you to everybody for participating in this session and the larger conference itself. I hope to see all of you in future Zoom rooms tomorrow. And I hope everybody takes care of themselves and stay safe. So thank you.
Thank you. Please also connect with the exhibitor booths. I do have some handouts on there. If you'll check that, the Montgomery County Reentry Career Alliance Academy handout is on that as well. So thank you.
Thank you.